So I've been dying to share this knife and this knife with you for over a year and a half, and today I finally can. Well, sort of. First, we have to go to Oregon. Let's go. Okay, so we made it here to Ashland, Oregon. We're at Worksharp HQ, and they invited us out here to show us this. This is the RMX, or the Remix. It's their first knife, and on paper, it's actually a pretty good knife. It's cool. It's got some interesting features, but that's not the real story. The real story to this knife is so much cooler. It's innovative, and it is game-changing, and I have to show you why. So that's what we're gonna do, and with that said, let's do the damn thing. So first, to understand the RMX, we have to go back to 2023. Blade Show Atlanta, I was pulled to the side and asked if I would be willing to sign an NDA to check out something pretty cool. So of course I did. And what I was shown was something similar to this 3D print right here. And they said, what do you think? And I said, it's a knife. Why would I buy a knife from a company that specializes in sharpening knives, not making knives? And I was a little bit unimpressed. Okay, now we fast forward to Blade Show 2024 in Atlanta, and that's where things started to get a little interesting. They didn't have 3D printed prototypes on hand, they had actual physical beta knives on hand, and they gave me two of them. One of them looked a lot like this right here. This is one of the ones that I held off camera and said, I really wish I could show you this thing, but I'm literally under NDA and I can't. And I got some things that I wish I could show you, I can't, unfortunately. And this on paper looks really, really cool. It looks cool in person. It's a cool knife. Should probably take a moment to actually tell you about the RMX. We've talked about all these other things, but really quickly, let's just divert to the knife itself. So this is the RMX in the reverse Tanto. This has a CPM 3V blade. It's full flat grind, and it is very, very thin and slicey. You can actually even see it bend, but it is very strong. We're gonna talk to Dan in a little bit about some of that stuff. It has a integral magnesium alloy handle, so it's all one piece. You have a button lock, and it does lock shut, and that's because you do have the ability to switch this to an automatic pivot. If it were to open if you put an automatic pivot in there, it would just open all the time on its own. So you can't do that. You have to have it locked shut. But there is another configuration, which is the drop point blade. It's a high saber flat grind. This one is an M390, and it is a little thicker stock as well. So those are your two configs as far as blades go. Then there is the compact. Same thing. Right now, this one only comes in a drop point in the M390, but they also come in black. So you have 6 total configurations available at launch, which are these right here. That's all of the ones that will be out or available at launch, which is happening at Blade Show this year, so June 6th, if you want to be one of the first to get a hold of the first run of the RMX. That still doesn't answer the question, why? Why should a knife sharpening company transition into making knives? And I think I should probably leave the answer to that to people who are far more qualified than myself. So let's go. I think one of the first pieces of the puzzle is understanding a little bit of the culture here at Worksharp. It's been really cool to see them peel back the curtain a little bit and explain some of that culture. But this is a company that doesn't just make things just to make them. They solve problems, and they do it in a really fun and interesting way.
What we're doing here at Worksharp is a little bit different. We're a customer-centric company. We're looking to solve problems for customers and deliver value and innovation and performance. We've done that with sharpeners for over 50 years. We've gotten great feedback from customers, and we looked at other areas that we can innovate and deliver meaningful solutions. Knives became a logical space for us to move into. But we're not a knife company, so we didn't know the knife company rules that we were supposed to abide by. So we took a completely different look at how to deliver a knife in a new and different way that delivers performance and value to the customer. So not only do we have meaningful new innovations in the knife design itself, we also are able to use our global sourcing and our vendor base worldwide to get great components into our facility here in Ashland, Oregon, and then have every knife be bench built by our team here. So it lets us flex our strengths both in global supply chain, jobs that are bench building great products here in Ashland, Oregon. And that's how we deliver high performance products at high value that surprise and delight our customers. And they're stoked when they buy the product and have the experience that we intended. That's the reward we get from the hard work that we do.
So one of the most interesting things about the Remix is the value proposition, right? This knife is not sourced in just China or Taiwan. It's not even made in China or Taiwan or another country. All the parts are globally sourced. So Worksharp has gone through all their suppliers to find the best value in every single piece of the knife to bring it all together and build it here in Ashland, Oregon. And what that allows them to do is to have a knife that is really good and really high quality, a button lock integral, which is typically a $400 to $800 option for under $200. And it is really good.
Worksharp has specialized in supply chain for a long time, both from sharpeners and now into knives. So with knives, we're doing the same thing that we've done with sharpeners. Parts don't come from one vendor or two vendors. We get stuff all over the world, many different countries, many different suppliers, people who are really good at this, who can maximize the value in what they're producing. We bring parts into our building, and then we use a team of people to assemble, quality check, box up, ship, warranty, customer service, all that stuff is done in-house for sharpeners. So for knives, it's no different. What we're doing is we're getting blades from Taiwan, or you have secondary suppliers in Vietnam. We're getting hardware and parts in the US. We're getting our handles from a couple of different suppliers overseas. We bring those parts in-house, we do some finish work, we do some milling, we do some coatings, we sharpen the blades, and then we do assembly so we can get all those knives together, check tolerances, check fit and finish, get them packaged, shipped out to customers, and then if there's any warranty claims, any issues, we service those in-house. We have all the parts, we have all the expertise to break them down, to build them back, to ship them back out. With that, you don't get an American-made knife, you don't get a Chinese-made knife or a Vietnamese-made knife, but you get a knife that's globally sourced and then bench built here in Ashland, Oregon, hoping to provide you with the best of both worlds, where we get high quality and low cost parts and an American company that's standing behind the product.
And if you want to deeper dive on the supply chain and all of that, our friend Ben is doing that video. He's focusing on the supply chain and that really cool aspect of Worksharp. This is something unique to Worksharp. Like most of the knife companies that we come across are not sourcing from multiple places. They're having a knife made in China or somewhere else and then selling it here. This is a totally different beast. They are sourcing from a bunch of different places to find the best value in all the places and bringing it together into one piece here, which is a very cool and unique way to do it. The other question is, why magnesium? That's something that nobody else is really doing. Magnesium alloy integral, that's pretty unique. So the only person I have to ask that question to is Dan.
First obvious reason is weight or density. Magnesium is the lightest, stiffest structural metal that we have. It's stiffer than titanium for its weight. And that shows up when you grip the knife. It just doesn't move in your hand. Right. And then it is shockingly light to most people. The whole assembled knife is lighter than the scales of most even plastic knives. It almost feels like it's not in your hand.
Yeah, it's super lightweight.
I'll show you the same scale in titanium, then hold that in your hand.
It feels like steel after. It feels like steel after
the
that.
Titanium feels heavy.
Right.
Right. And imagine that in steel.
Right.
Right. It's going to get 30 or so % heavier in that same thing. And that's no coring in these things. So this is full thickness. There's no magic inside. I'm not doing any extra milling. There's no gaps to get stuff caught in or anything else. I carry raw magnesium. So that's literally raw magnesium. It patinas and looks like a dark titanium. So this is a natural patina. This has been in my pocket for almost 2.5, 3 years now, right? You'll see wear on the edges where it, wears on pocket and stuff. And this knife has been through a lot for, several years. And I carry, so this is an example of, this one's about 3 weeks, completely raw, unfinished. It's not even, I didn't even finish it after processing. So this doesn't even have a bead blast on it. And you can see it patterns and patinas. You see where it's wearing on another knife in my pocket.
Yeah.
So I love the way magnesium patinas. But if I dip this in salt water,
corrodes.
And don't dry it and oil it right away, like within an hour or two, your button will be stuck.
There we go.
Yeah.
Cerakote.
Yeah. And so we Cerakote everything right now. I'm trying to talk us, the company into selling the raw ones, but people need to understand, we probably will someday. You need to understand if you do the wrong one, you're going to have to treat it like you would a wood handled, you know.
Right, wood handle or
think of an old Buck
blade,
110.
like a
We've
tool steel.
been buying Buck 110s for 60 years with wood scales on them, and we all make them live.
Yep.
So just treat that knife the same way, and you would do the same thing.
I do have one other question, and it has to do with something we were talking about yesterday, which is this knife is a little different because it centers everything around the pivot versus like aligning based on the frame, right? Your pivot is your reference point, right? Yeah.
So one of the big reasons for that is I wanted to do an integral because I want to save parts. Handles that are sandwiched or stacked together have a whole bunch of parts in them. We're trying to optimize the design for value and performance. When you build an integral, you have to some way get bearings and locks and everything up inside the knife. And then the inside faces on all traditionally built knives are the bearing face.
Right.
So on our knives, they're not. So these pivots are actually the bearings. So I can pull this apart real quick. When you look at how this knife's constructed, the bearing face is actually just the pivot. So if you pop that out, you can see that bearing runs. So these are a hardened and titanium nitrided space, so they love ball bearings on it. So ceramic ball bearings are running right on this pivot. And it basically means that the inside of this knife, if you look, I can strip this knife all the way down to its parts, right? So there's a fully disassembled knife. Super easy to disassemble, super easy to assemble, right? One screw. And then all, same thing with the backside. Bearing runs on this steel, very simple pivot mechanism inside of it, and put the bearings on those faces. And so we end up with a much simpler knife design.
And my favorite thing about this personally is that when you are reconstructing this knife, rebuilding it, you have a giant window through the entire knife.
Correct.
You can place your bearings, you can reach everything, which is typically a problem with an integral.
Because you have to try and stuff them in there and get everything lined up all at once.
Yeah. And this thing, you can reach everything. You can see it, you can reach it, you can align it.
Everything loads in from one side. All of the critical features, by the way, are all machined from one side. So we basically can make everything that positions the blade, centers it, moves it side to side, controls the angles, all machined in one setup from one side. So we get a much better performing knife in one setup instead of having to do multiple setups. So you'll hold the blade in, back pivot goes in, has a bearing sitting on it, and literally slides in from the backside, right? So that's just engaged in the backside. And then next bearing drops in, and then you just align that little key that's there with the key that's in the housing, like that. And while you're holding it together, stick your screw back in.
And you're done.
And it's the same way you can convert this from manual to auto, right? You've seen the function where we basically can only change out this front pivot, put a pivot that has a torsion spring into it. And so with the knives you see, you basically, it takes to take a knife part and put it back together.
Right.
I'm talking to you, messing around over maybe a minute or something like that.
Yeah,
we can build, it's centered, it's running super smooth. Integrals just feel better, but they're a bear to assemble. So having everything load in from both sides, all your bearing surfaces, it literally makes the handle now just a handle. It's not literally part of the mechanism anymore.
So we were back here in North Carolina, but before we left Oregon, I wanted to get the opinions of all of the other friends that I had that were there without Worksharp around. I wanted their true, unfiltered opinions. So here are a few of those.
So here's my real unfiltered thoughts in front of the Worksharp building about what I think about this new knife. I really like it. I like the size. I like that it passes the finger test. I like the choil a lot. The compact is a delight. Now, here's my complaint with it. And this is a small complaint, not a big complaint. I really want it to have a thumb stud. I would prefer it with a thumb stud versus the automatic cartridge swap. Now, I know they've worked their butts off to have this automatic capability. I'm not an auto guy, and that is okay. But I hope that one day they come out with one with a thumb stud so that I can sit there and fidget with it. Like, I want it to be baby banter style, just like that.
Yeah.
And that's honestly like my only criticism, because I don't like knives that only have a single like flick opening mechanism button lock. That's my criticism. Other than that, like, I'm genuinely stoked about it. And like the nerdy disassemble it guy in me is like, let's go. Like,
This is the stuff that gets me excited about knives.
yeah, that's not all roses. I didn't say all roses, but super cool that they had us out, and it's super cool that they're transitioning into pocket knives.
Starting with the negative, let's start with the negative. I'm already getting some wear on the Cerakote, which I do think Cerakote's very durable, but mine was rubbing against my wall. So I kind of expect that. I don't think it's anything bad against the Cerakote. Magnesium, though, is not very corrosion resistant. So theoretically, if it gets too warm, it could start showing corrosion. That'd probably be my biggest negative right this second, but it doesn't defeat how much I like the knife, because I love the mechanism. So I think it's cool that they're using a unique handle material, especially as an integral. I think it's cool that they're using premium steels. It's so lightweight, yet it does feel like a tool, which I love. Slicey, and I love the sound, man. I can't, like, that sound, man, it's great. Like, it's amazing. But yeah, it's really cool. I love it.
When I first heard Worksharp was doing a knife, I was like, oh no. So my first thought was that they were going to try to do something to compete with the big box store brands, right? The Milwaukee's, you know what I mean by big box store brand. But then I saw a picture on YouTube, or it wasn't a picture, it was a video of Kyle and Josh doing a sharpen off. And I saw the knife sitting on the table, and it immediately changed my opinion on the knife. I was like, wait a second, what's that? Because it was unlike anything I had seen before. My first thought was, what handle is that? I've never seen that before. And then the more I learned about it, the more I was like, oh, but that's because it's never been done before. I'm not a fan of well, I guess this doesn't have a double choil, but the choil up here. I'd much rather have the blade come down as far as possible. But the way that this knife works, they could bring it down a little bit, but that's just part of the design of the knife. I say that, and then I find myself actually using it, and I don't even realize it. I don't typically like sharpening choils. I don't like choils in general. I think it's an easy way to hide a bad plunge grind. That's my thoughts on it. It also depends on, here we go down the rabbit hole. It also depends on the shape of the primary plunge grind too. Right. That plays a huge role in how the knife cuts, but typically I'd prefer no choils, but then again, I find myself using it.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Good, bad, and the ugly.
Yeah.
I really, really like it. It's super slicey. It fits my hand perfectly. I like a good finger choil in here so I can choke up. Super slicey. I'm not the biggest fan of too much branding on the knife. So we got a logo here. You got the same logo on the other side. And it says Worksharp on the spine as well. So we got 3 branding spots on the blade alone. That's a little bit much for me. Other than that, it's just small details. Like this pivot, I mean, I understand why it has so big, why it has to be so big. So it's easier to swap it, to convert it, to change it. But visually, it's just a big circle.
Yeah.
And
it being like brass.
Yeah, it's loud.
Stands out.
It's loud, yeah.
All right. Thanks, dude.
Yeah, anytime.
Actual thoughts are, it's a piece of, I like it. I like it a lot, actually. It's not something I typically would carry. It's much lighter. I'm a titanium fiend. I love titanium knives. I like the heavy duty of it, but it's so nice. It feels great. The action's awesome. And I can make it an automatic in like less than a minute. The only thing that I don't like is that it locks out. So there's no way to thumb stud it, but it is what it is. It's still got that fidget factor, and that's at the end of the day what really matters. It's unique, it's different. There's not another knife like it. I think they really nailed it.
Yeah, I agree. Thanks, dude.
Yep.
Okay, so where do I fall on the RMX? I've known about this thing for a long time. I actually carried these betas for a good bit, and I genuinely really like them. I think even back then they were very, very, very nice knives. Even though I didn't fully understand the impact or the direction or a lot of the backstory for this knife, I think they were great knives just by themselves. But some of the stuff that I've learned is really, really impressive. It's something new that it's really hard to see something or find or experience something truly new in the knife industry. And especially when you look at it on the outside, it doesn't look all that different. It doesn't look like something special. But I think if you just listen to what some of our friends have said about this, and we're not saying this because Worksharp is a sponsor of the channel, I think this is truly a really cool concept that they have executed very well. and they're bringing something new to the knife industry that they already do well, which is like sourcing from all sorts of different suppliers to bring together a package versus getting something made somewhere else and shipped here, or building it all here and it costing 3-4x what this costs currently. They have walked that line very well between finding the right suppliers for the best value and bringing it all together, and they put them together here in the US. So it's not US made, but you get the value that you get from Worksharp, you know and love from Worksharp. You get the best value of all the best parts sourced from the best places, and you get cost savings. So it's a really good middle ground, and I think they've executed it very, very well. And I have to say, although I am not much of a fan of automatic knives, I don't carry automatic knives very often. I have in the past. They don't move the needle for me a lot because, you know, a good detent is just as good as an automatic knife. But I do think what they've done here with this swappable pivot, this little cassette pivot, is really, really cool and novel, and it makes it much easier to legally ship a knife anywhere, and then you can make it automatic if you want. You have that option. You don't have to choose, yes, I want this and pay more for it. It's just included. So if you want to try it out, you can throw it in there, and if you like it, leave it. If not, swap it back. It's a very quick and easy process. And in fact, I don't know that we've shown it just in the process. And I want to do that here and show you how easy it is to switch this knife from a manual button lock to an automatic knife. So we have an automatic pivot and we have the manual pivot. And this is all you have to do. I'm going to talk you through it as I do it because it's actually a very quick process. So you use an included tool to remove this rear screw. Once it's loose, you can use that to push this front pivot out. You want to open this knife up just a little bit. You want to remove the bearing. I just dropped that straight through. Great. And then you're going to line this little tab up on this spring with a slot in the blade. There's 2 notches on the inside of this. Right? So there's a notch there and a notch there, and that's how you can adjust how strong the spring is on your automatic knife. So it is an adjustable spring. So we're going to put this in here and we'll rotate until it clicks into place. And if you want it to go to the next one, kind of use that screw to push it forward and rotate until it clicks again. That is where you want it to stay. And then you're just going to simply tighten down this screw. That's it. That's the whole process for switching from auto or from manual to auto. And then you can just tighten or loosen your pivot for your personal tuning. So that's probably a little tight for me. We're going to loosen it one more. Boom. That's it. It's that simple. You take out the screw, put that pivot in, tighten it back down. Really, really simple process. And then just for the sake of it, we'll show it going back in the other direction. So we already have this pivot out, right? So from this point, you would just take that screw out and you're here, right? Pop that pivot out. You want to drop in a bearing and you want to line this up. There's a tab on the handle. You line this up with this tab, feel it drop in, and you tighten it down. Tighten it all the way. And then you'll want to back it off once it's already tightened. So if you push this button, you want that blade to freely flow like that right there. You've got a centered blade on both of these knives, and I swapped the pivots between them. So that actually brings me to one of the cooler parts about this that wasn't talked about in probably any of the other videos or by Worksharp. But what I see here is 2 knives that are completely, totally interchangeable. I could probably take this blade and put it on this knife without a problem. I'm not 100% sure of that because they have made changes in the last year, so that may not work. But let's say this knife comes out with the reverse tanto blade. I could then put that blade in this handle and it would work totally fine. I have a drop point blade in the full-sized RMX. I could swap these blades right now, no problem. I could do it on camera right now. All of these parts from both of these knives are completely interchangeable. So what I see from that is the ability to make it possible for you to either customize your knife how you want, change things out. Like what they've talked about is if you break this blade, which apparently is very hard to do, even as thin as this 3V is, you could just get, oh, I forgot it's automatic now. You could just get a new blade. which is something that other companies can do, but you could just swap to a new blade. You could buy a blade by itself, maybe. I see the potential for Worksharp to sell individual components to make you able to build your own knife. I don't know if that's coming. I don't know if that's what they want, but I see that as a possibility because, I mean, all of this stuff works together. It's like Legos for knives, and that's really cool. The ability to just buy a handle and you could choose your blade. That's really cool. Like, nobody's really doing that. So I think there's a lot of potential for customization of these knives down the road. Also, I feel like it should be said that my absolute favorite configuration of the RMX is one that they're not making right off the rip. This right here was my favorite from the betas, the compact with the reverse Tonto blade. When the compact comes out, which will be Blade Show, June 6th, it's coming only as this drop point. I think there'll be black handles, but the compact will only be available in a drop point in an M390 blade. The reverse Tonto is not happening in the compact because originally the compact was this plastic handle with a magnesium backspacer. It's not an all magnesium handle, but down the road there will be a compact with a reverse Tonto, but it will not be M390, it will not be 3V, it will actually be in Nitro V. So just know that my favorite configuration of this entire knife, and I know a lot of other people also felt the same way, isn't going to happen right at the launch, but I do really like the drop point. It's just a really good, small, compact utility blade, right? It's like a baby banter on steroids, or what a lot of you are probably going to compare it to, the ProTech Runt. I think that's a fair comparison, especially the reverse Tonto. Runt also comes in a Wharncliffe blade. Does have a significantly stronger kick to the spring, but if I were to choose one of these knives, I'd probably go with the RMX, with the reverse Tonto. This is still, I think, one of my favorite compact knives to date, and I think a lot of that is because it's such a small knife, but it still has that full hand grip because of the choil, and that 3V blade is so thin and slicey. I know that it won't be 3V once it finally comes out in the reverse Tonto. It'll be Nitro V, but I still think that'll be a really, really good combo. And since we're making comparisons to other knives, I know that there are a couple that are probably worth making, and the ones that initially come to mind are, obviously, we have a couple of other integral button locks, and then we also have one of ProTech's most popular knives ever. This is the Malibu. So you got a reverse Tonto button lock flipper. This one obviously isn't a flipper, and it's integral, and this one's not. But as far as like the knives go, there's a lot of similarities there. But the big, I guess, contrast here is that you have two other integral button locks that are made in America. And then there's one other one in existence that I know of, and that is the Fjell from Grimsmo. There's a big difference between this and these two and the one from Grimsmo, and that is price. Obviously, we're talking about American made, and we're talking about something that is globally sourced. That's going to be a big contrast. But price is wildly different. This is sub $200. I know that they're shooting for like 150 or so, but sub 200 is the goal. The current global climate is going to kind of dictate where that lands. But with these two, as far as the Dead Reckon goes, our cheapest option for the Dead Reckon is an aluminum handle with a D2 blade for just under $300. I think it's like $298. You can upgrade to a 3V blade and it's like $330. You're still with an aluminum integral handle, button lock. If Worksharp hits its target price on this, this will be double. And this will be the second most cheapest integral button lock on the market. This is $750 starting price now. These were originally about $500 and some dollars, $500, $550. They are now $750, $800 depending on the configuration you get. And the Fjell is probably what, $1,200 if I were to guess. I mean, just based on Grimsmo pricing, just based on how Grimsmo typically prices stuff, you're looking at probably north of $1,000 for the Grimsmo. So when you're looking at integral button locks, this thing is ridiculously affordable compared to anything else on the market. It is a different beast. It's not made in America, but the value of something that is a button lock integral is insane. Just truly, truly insane. And the last thing for that comparison is, because this is a magnesium handle and not titanium or aluminum, it is significantly lighter. The machine-wise here is fairly heavy. It's not that heavy, but by comparison, it feels very heavy. And this dead reckon also feels pretty heavy. When you're dealing with a button lock integral, you can't really machine out the internals unless you skeletonize the whole handle, because there's no way to do that. With casting magnesium and then machining it, they are able to get a super, super lightweight material that is just as rigid or about as rigid as titanium, especially for just EDC knife. You're not going to be doing anything that's going to ever destroy this handle, hopefully. The only things that I would be concerned about long-term with these knives is the magnesium. So it being a magnesium alloy, if this Cerakote wears away, what happens if you let some salt water get in that little mechanism for your button? What if it seizes up? That's really the biggest concern I have, because the Cerakote will wear away. You can already see it's worn away in a few places because I've been carrying this. So if that wears away, what happens? But then we have Dan Doval, who's been carrying one for 3+ years in raw magnesium, and as long as you take care of it, it's totally fine. I think it looks really cool. I think it's a nothing burger. I don't think it's something to be truly concerned about, but that's the one big question mark for me is what happens? We could test it. We could figure it out. We could throw one of these in like salt water and see what happens, but I don't think it's a big thing to be concerned about. My biggest thing is I want to see what Worksharp does down the line. What does the next version of this look like? I know some people are upset that this does not have thumb studs, and frankly, for them to accomplish this with a swappable pivot, you couldn't have thumb studs. So I saw a lot of comments about that. If you had a thumb stud, you couldn't open the knife because it has to lock closed, because you can swap it to an automatic pivot. If you had this with thumb studs and to be able to open, like say this, if you had the auto mechanism in there, it would just open on its own without any outside force. So that literally physically cannot be an option if you have this knife as a swappable pivot between manual and auto. So the concern that you guys have there just basically means that if you don't like having to do this to open and close your knife, this might not be the knife for you. But I'd love to see them do a version that doesn't swap to auto and has a thumb stud mechanism, or, you know, there's a lot of options for what they can do down the line. And I'm really, really excited to see where they take this, because initially, like many of my friends, when Worksharp said, hey, we're making a knife, I was like, no, please, don't do it. Don't do it. And then very quickly, I was convinced that they should make a knife, because they do it right. They did this right. I think it's great. I want to know what you guys think about it in the comments down below. If you would like one of these, they will first be available at Blade Show. They will also be available on Worksharp's website, I think right around that time, if not on the first day of Blade Show. So keep your eyes peeled. I'm sure we'll link you to it when it's available. But tell me in the comments down below what you think about the RMX Compact, and which one is your favorite config. Automatic, reverse Tonto, drop point, black, gray. What's the perfect config of the RMX for you? All right, that's it. I'll see you guys in the next video. And until then, carry on.